The biggest stories in the history of Monday. 4 sign on the dotted line, sell Czechoslovakia down the river. Magic Flute makes Vienna debut, Mozart still dead. And Cheers, the show that made everyone want to live in a bar. Plus, coming up, a shocking report on why armadillos in Norway have demanded 250 more toilets in their burrows. Those are the headlines. The news got me pregnant.
Itty News Bang, making up for lost time by letting truth be told. 1938.
In a move that's sure to leave a nasty taste in everyone's mouth, world leaders have decided to hand over a chunk of Czechoslovakia to Hitler.
The Munich Agreement, a pact more flimsy than a wet paper bag, was signed today by Britain, France, and Italy, essentially telling Hitler, "Go on, lad, have a nibble. We're sure you'll be satisfied."
Neville Chamberlain, returning to London clutching a scrap of paper like it was the Holy Grail, declared, "Peace for our time." Little did he know that piece of paper was actually a napkin with Hitler's doodles of tanks and marching boots on it.
Meanwhile, a terrified Czechoslovakia is reportedly packing its bags and looking for a new place to live.
1791.
233 years ago today, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, a man whose wig collection could rival Marie Antoinette's, unleashed the magic flute upon the world. It was a night of musical madness, Viennese style.
Eyewitnesses report Mozart, eyes gleaming with manic inspiration, conducting his orchestra while dressed as a giant badger. The poor soprano, stuffed into a papier-mâché bird costume, nearly choked to death mid-aria.
One concert-goer, Herr Schnitzel, described the scene as utter bedlam. "I've never seen so many out-of-tune woodwinds and misplaced codpieces."
The opera's high-minded themes of Enlightenment were somewhat undermined by a brawl that erupted in the audience over the last sausage roll. Mozart, ever the opportunist, incorporated the fight into the finale, calling it the Sausage Roll Symphony.
1982.
A Boston bar, known as Cheers, has been exposed as the headquarters of a sinister plot to turn Americans into couch potatoes. That's right, folks. This seemingly innocent watering hole is ground zero for a massive conspiracy to sap the nation's productivity.
One victim, whose liver wishes to remain anonymous, confessed, "I went in for a quick after-work drink and next thing I knew I was wearing a Norm t-shirt and had developed a disturbing crush on Kirstie Alley."
The masterminds behind this nefarious scheme, those television Svengalis, James Burrows, Glenn Charles, and Les Charles, have been charged with crimes against free time. Their weapons? Witty banter, endless reruns, and the inexplicable charisma of a balding bartender named Sam.
Madudi News Bang, scooping up the crumbs of truth from the dinner table of deception.
And now, for a weather report more earth-shattering than a dropped trifle at a vicar's tea party, it's Shakanaka Giles.
Good evening, viewers. Hold on to your teacups, folks, because things are getting a bit shaky down south. A seismic shimmy off the coast of Sumatra is sending tremors all the way to Blighty. We're talking wobbly tea tables, rattling windows, and maybe a few startled budgies. Don't worry, it's nothing a stiff upper lip and a good cuppa can't handle. Over in the Caucasus region, however, things are looking a bit more dramatic. A right Bobby Dazzler of an earthquake is shaking things up, the sort that could make a babushka drop her borscht. Ganja, in particular, is getting a good old geological going over. Buildings are doing the twist, statues are taking a bow, and I wouldn't be surprised if a few chickens have laid square eggs. But back in Blighty, it's all rather calm. A crisp autumn day, perfect for a walk in the park, a spot of leaf peeping, and perhaps a cheeky conker fight. Just don't stand under any precariously balanced chimneys, and you'll be right as rain. And that's all the weather.
B's tin. It is 7:37. Rectimis non deduce.
Well, slap my thighs and call me a camel. It seems those Umayyad chaps have had a bit of a wardrobe malfunction over in Transoxiana. Word on the Silk Road is that the Turkish tribesmen have nicked their trousers, their camels, and their picnic baskets. Apparently, Islamic expansion isn't all scimitars and sunshine. For a live update on this great baggage blunder, we go to our intrepid war correspondent, Brian Bastable, who's been roughing it in the steppes for the past fortnight. Brian, how's the mood amongst the pantless hordes?
Martin, imagine a jumble sail in a sandstorm, hosted by a pack of rabid weasels with a fondness for scimitars. That's the scene here in Transoxiana, where the Turgesh lads are having a right old knees up after relieving the Umayyad Caliphate of their luxury luggage. Those camels, Martin, they're running amok, spitting and kicking, their humps laden with enough silk to clothe a small army of transvestites. The air is thick with the scent of spices, fear, and camel dung, a truly unique bouquet that I'll be trying to forget for the rest of my days. The Umayyad soldiers, bless their sand-blasted souls, are wandering around looking like they've lost their best friend and their lottery ticket on the same day. I just saw a bloke trying to barter his trousers for a ride back to Damascus. Not sure he's got the best negotiating skills. This defeat is going to be a major blow to the Caliph's ego, Martin. I wouldn't want to be the bloke who has to tell him he's lost his luggage, let alone an entire army's worth of kit. I suspect heads will roll, Martin, and I'm not talking about the ones on the camels. This is Brian Bastable, Newsbang, signing off from a battlefield that's more embarrassing than a wardrobe malfunction at a sultan's wedding.
And in 1965.
And on this day, in 1965, Indonesia witnessed what can only be described as the world's most poorly planned pajama party. The 30 September movement, clearly not fans of sleeping in, decided to kidnap 6 generals for a midnight soiree. Shockingly, this impromptu slumber party turned sour, leading to a nationwide game of hide-and-seek with communists. General Suharto, appointed chief party pooper, launched a purge so thorough it made spring cleaning look like child's play. For more on this Indonesian kerfuffle, we go to our man on the ground, Ken Shit. Ken, are you wearing your party hat?
Good evening, you miserable bastards. Gather round for a tale of treachery, bloodshed, and enough political backstabbing to make Julius Caesar look like a goddamn Boy Scout. It's 1965 Indonesia, the 30 September movement. A bunch of trigger-happy jarheads with delusions of grandeur decide they're gonna play kingmaker. They kidnap and execute 6 top army brass, thinking they're hot shit. But they fucked up, didn't they? Enter General Suharto, a man so ruthless he makes Attila the Hun look like Mother Teresa. He crushes this piss-poor excuse for a coup faster than you can say totalitarian regime. But oh no. He's not done, not by a long shot. Suharto decides it's time to go communist hunting. He whips the country into a frenzy, pointing fingers at the Communist Party of Indonesia. What follows is a bloodbath that'd make Vlad the Impaler proud. Over 500,000 people, that's right, 500,000 souls, are slaughtered in a matter of months. The streets run red with the blood of the innocent, the guilty, and everyone in between. It's a fucking free-for-all, a murderous circus with Suharto as the ringmaster. And where are the world's great powers during this shitstorm? Sitting pretty, twiddling their thumbs, and secretly high-fiving each other for another win against the Red Menace. This, ladies and gentlemen, is how you turn a country into a slaughterhouse. This is how you birth a dictatorship that'll last 3 goddamn decades. This is Indonesia, 1965. Ken Shit, signing off before I puke my guts out.
1938.
And on this day in 1938, the Munich Agreement was signed. a diplomatic blunder of such magnitude it makes today's political gaffes look like mere playground squabbles. In a misguided attempt to appease Hitler, Western powers effectively gift-wrapped the Sudetenland for Nazi Germany. Chamberlain and Daladier, in their infinite wisdom, decided to play let's make a deal with a dictator, only to find out they'd traded peace for a ticking time bomb. Mussolini, ever the opportunist, saw his chance to strut on the world stage. For more on this monumental misstep, we go to our political correspondent, Hardiman Pesto.
Martin, I'm here in Munich where the ink is still wet on what Prime Minister Chamberlain is calling a triumph for British diplomacy. I've just spoken with noted historian Professor Wilhelmina von Schnitzelhausen.
Thank you, Hardiman. It's a pleasure to be here on this historic day.
Pesto, what exactly did Chamberlain say about this so-called triumph?
Well, Martin, he waved a piece of paper and declared peace for our time. The crowds are jubilant.
And did you ask the professor what she thought about that statement?
Of course, Martin. Professor von Schnitzelhausen, your thoughts on Chamberlain's declaration?
It's a catastrophic miscalculation. This agreement effectively hands over the Sudetenland to Hitler on a silver platter.
So, a resounding success then.
Pesto, are you even listening? The professor just said it's a catastrophe.
Yes, a catastrophic success, Martin, that's what I said.
Professor, could you elaborate on the implications of this agreement?
Certainly. This appeasement policy will only embolden Hitler. It's likely to lead to further aggression and potentially a full-scale war.
Fascinating. So, Martin, it seems we can look forward to a prolonged period of peace and stability in Europe.
Pesto, for the love of... Professor, what do you think Hitler's next move will be?
Based on his past actions and rhetoric, it's highly probable he'll set his sights on Poland next.
Poland? Nonsense. Why would anyone want Poland? It's mostly potatoes and cabbage, isn't it?
Pesto, can you please focus? We're discussing potential invasion plans, not vegetable production.
Right you are, Martin. So, Professor, this peace for our time, how long do you reckon it'll last?
If we're lucky, perhaps a year. But I wouldn't be surprised if war breaks out much sooner.
Splendid. A whole year of peace. That's practically an eternity in political terms, isn't it, Martin?
Pesto, I give up. Professor von Schnitzelhausen, thank you for your insights. Pesto, please try not to start a war on your way back to the present.
Righto, Martin. I'll just pop over to the beer hall for a quick pint with some chap called Adolf. Seems like a jolly fellow.
And on that terrifying note, we may need to end tonight's broadcast. Good evening, and may God have mercy on us all.
1882.
And on this day in 1882, the Vulcan Street plant in Appleton, Wisconsin, made a splash in the annals of electricity. This hydroelectric marvel, the first of its kind in North America to serve both private and commercial customers, combined the raw power of water with Edison's electrical wizardry. Did the lights dim in Niagara Falls? For more on this shocking development, we go to our American correspondent, Melody Wintergreen.
Appleton, Wisconsin. 1882. Melody Wintergreen here, where the Fox River is roaring and the lights are about to get a whole lot brighter. This is the Vulcan Street plant, North America's first hydroelectric central station, and tonight, we're flipping the switch on progress. The air crackles with anticipation, the whirring of turbines, the hum of generators, the nervous coughs of dignitaries. It's a symphony of innovation conducted by Henry J. Rogers, the visionary industrialist behind this hydroelectric marvel. No more belching smokestacks, he declares, just the pure, untamed power of nature, harnessed for the benefit of all. And the benefits are already dazzling. At the nearby Appleton pulp mill, production is soaring like a paper airplane on a power surge. Even the Rogers Mansion, a Victorian showstopper, is aglow with the steady brilliance of Edison's electric lamps. Goodbye, flickering gaslight. Hello, the future. But this isn't just a local affair. Power brokers from across the nation have descended on Appleton, eager to witness this watery wonder. They're here to steal secrets, take notes, and dream of a future where electricity flows like champagne at a robber baron's ball. The cheers of the crowd say it all. Appleton has hit the jackpot, not with gold, but with a power source that's cleaner, greener, and more powerful than 1,000 horses. As the mighty turbines spin, sending electricity surging through the wires, one thing is clear: Appleton has etched its name in the history books. The Vulcan Street plant, a spark that ignited a revolution and illuminated the path to a brighter tomorrow. This is Melody Wintergreen, Newsbang, reporting live from the birthplace of hydroelectric history.
News Bang, the only game in town where facts win and lies lose every single time. Ulysses, 1939.
For a look back at the birth of televised American football, we turn to our sports correspondent, Ryder Boff. Ryder has been reminiscing about the historic 1939 match between the Fordham Rams and the Waynesburg Yellow Jackets, which marked NBC's first football broadcast.
And now we're taking a jolly jaunt back to 1939, where the world of American football is about to be turned on its head like a poorly timed cartwheel at a gymnastics meet. NBC, the plucky broadcasting pioneers, have decided to beam moving pictures of burly men in tight trousers right into the living rooms of unsuspecting Americans. It's the Fordham Rams versus the Waynesburg Yellow Jackets, and by Jove, it's gonna be a humdinger. The Fordham Rams, led by their strapping quarterback Biff the Human Cannon McMuscleson, are the favourites. They've got biceps the size of Christmas hams and a collective IQ rivaling that of a particularly gifted turnip. On the other side, we have the Waynesburg Yellow Jackets, a scrappy bunch of underdogs with more heart than a Valentine's Day card factory. McMuscleson takes the snap. He's looking for a receiver. He spots Tiny Timmons streaking down the field. He throws, oh dear, it's a bit of a wobbly pass, spiralling through the air like a drunken pigeon, and it's intercepted. The Yellow Jackets have it. They're running it back the other way. It's like watching a herd of bison stampede through a china shop. This is edge-of-your-seat stuff, folks, even if your seat is a rather lumpy armchair, and the picture's a bit fuzzy. Now, I remember my first experience with television. It was back in '52, and I was convinced the tiny people inside the box were actually imprisoned midgets forced to perform for our entertainment. I wrote a strongly worded letter to the BBC, demanding they release the captives immediately. Needless to say, I received a rather terse reply and a suggestion to lay off the gin. But I digress. Back to the action. The game kicks off and it's a sight to behold. The Rams centre, Chunky Butterfingers O'Malley, snaps the ball with all the grace of a drunken elephant attempting ballet. It soars over McMuscleson's head, bouncing off his perfectly coiffed hair and into the waiting arms of Yellow Jackets defensive end, Skinny the Twig Twigglesworth. And would you believe it? The ball's gone over McMuscleson's head. It's bounced off his perfectly sculpted cranium. The Yellow Jackets have it. Skinny Twigglesworth is running like a man with his trousers on fire. He's at the 40, the 20. Oh, he's tripped over his own feet at the 10-yard line. What a spectacular display of ineptitude. Frankly, he's running slower than my Aunt Mildred after a Sunday roast. The crowd goes wild, or at least as wild as one can go while squinting at a fuzzy black and white image on a screen the size of a postage stamp. It's a historic moment, folks. The birth of televised sports, right here in our living rooms. No longer will we have to rely on the vivid imagination of radio announcers or the wild exaggerations of newspaper reports. Now we can see the fumbles, the tumbles, and the bumbles with our very own eyes. As the game progresses, it becomes clear that the real winner today isn't Fordham or Waynesburg, but the medium of television itself. It's like watching the future unfold before our very eyes, albeit in grainy monochrome. Who knows where this newfangled technology will take us? Perhaps one day we'll even be able to see the grass stains on the players' uniforms or the look of abject terror on the face of a quarterback about to be sacked. And the Rams are lining up for a field goal. It's kicker Kowalski, a man with a boot like a howitzer. He kicks, it's up, it's good. The crowd goes wild. Well, the Fordham fans are going wild. The Waynesburg fans look like they've just swallowed a lemon. Ah, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. It's enough to make you want to reach for a cold beer. Or perhaps a nice cup of tea. Depends on your preference, really. Personally, I'm more of a Bovril man myself. And there you have it, folks. September 30, 1939, the day American football leapt off the radio waves and onto our television screens. A day that will live in infamy, or at least until the next technological marvel comes along to make us all feel hopelessly outdated. This is Ryder Boff, signing off and heading to the pub to ponder the mysteries of the universe and why my ex-wife left me for a man who sells novelty doorbells.
For a traffic report that's more time-bending than a grandfather clock in a blender, it's Polly Beep. Polly, where are we off to tonight?
Evening, my little road rockets. Polly Beep here, your girl on the go with a traffic update that's more hair-raising than a roller coaster ride through a hair salon. First stop, 1975. Hold on to your bell-bottoms, folks, because the Boeing AH-64 Apache attack helicopter is making its debut over Arizona. This mean machine, armed to the teeth with missiles, rockets, and a chain gun that could make a tin can look like confetti, is turning heads and probably making a few tumbleweeds tremble. If you're cruising down Route 66, watch out for any unexpected flybys. You wouldn't want to get caught in this bird's crosshairs. Meanwhile, a herd of disco-loving buffalo is causing havoc near Flagstaff. They've taken over the highway for a hoof-stomping boogie session, creating a traffic jam that's groovier than a John Travolta marathon. Drivers are advised to crank up the BGs, practice their best hustle moves, and maybe offer those buffalo a glass of water. They must be parched after all that dancing. Back to the present day, where the M25 has inexplicably transformed into a giant disco ball. That's right, folks, it's reflecting light like nobody's business, causing mass confusion and possibly a few spontaneous dance-offs amongst bewildered drivers. Avoid it like a dodgy kebab unless you fancy a blinding light show and a serious case of road rage. And finally, on the A1 near Grantham, a group of time travelers has turned up in their DeLorean. They're reportedly demanding to know where the flying cars and hoverboards are. Apparently, the future isn't what they expected. Maybe someone should point them towards a copy of the highway code. They'll be in for a shock. This is Polly Beep signing off. Drive safe, my dears, and remember, always look both ways before crossing the space-time continuum.
Le Tasty, 1998.
And now, for a special report on the anniversary of a pivotal moment in British technological history, we turn to our science correspondent, Calamity Prenderville. Calamity, enlighten us about this groundbreaking development that has shaped the digital landscape as we know it today.
Good evening, tech enthusiasts. Today marks the anniversary of a momentous occasion in British innovation. On this day in 1998, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, or ICANN, was born right here in Blighty.
Now, you might be wondering, what's ICANN? Well, imagine a giant switchboard operator for the entire World Wide Web, but instead of connecting phone calls, it's connecting you to websites. Brilliant, isn't it?
ICANN was the brainchild of Sir Nigel Thistlewhite, a retired postman from Cleethorpes who had a knack for organising his stamp collection. He thought, if I can keep my penny blacks in order, why not the entire internet?
Using nothing but a BBC Micro, a Rolodex and a tin of digestive biscuits, Sir Nigel created a system to manage all those pesky .coms and .co.uk's. It's like a massive electronic phone book, but instead of finding your Aunt Mabel's number, you're finding www.fishandchipsemporium.com.
ICANN ensures that when you type in a web address, you don't end up on some dodgy site selling knockoff royal memorabilia. It's the reason why www.buckinghampalace.gov.uk takes you to Her Majesty's homepage and not a discount carpet warehouse in Rotherham. So next time you're surfing the information superhighway, remember to thank good old British ingenuity for keeping the cyber roads clear. This is Calamity Prendeville signing off. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go check my electronic postbox.
News Bang, serving truth with a generous helping of humour.
And now, with a report on historical hijinks and samurai shenanigans, we turn to our royal correspondent Sandy O'Shaughnessy. Sandy, I understand you have a tale of treachery from feudal Japan that puts our modern political scandals to shame.
Nice and easy.
Good evening. Good evening. And thrice good evening to you all. This is Sandy O'Shaughnessy, your humble servant of historical hilarity, coming to you live from the cosy confines of Newsbang Towers. A hearty hello to all you night owls out there, tuning in for a wee bit of whimsy before bedtime. Now, as we bid farewell to this fine September day in the year of our Lord 2024, let's take a jolly jaunt back to the land of the rising sun, where things were certainly rising and falling. Faster than a souffle in a sumo wrestling match. Picture this. It's 1551, and in Western Japan, we've got ourselves a right royal ruckus. Su Takafusa, a retainer of the Uchi clan, and no, that's not a fancy way of saying he was in charge of the clan's dental hygiene, decided it was high time for a bit of a shake-up. Now, Takafusa wasn't content with just rearranging the feudal furniture. Oh no, he went full J.R. Ewing on his boss, the daimyo Uchi Yoshitaka. Poor old Yoshitaka found himself on the wrong end of a coup faster than you can say, sushi surprise. It seems Takafusa had ambitions bigger than a sumo wrestler's appetite, and he wasn't about to let a little thing like loyalty get in the way of his climb up the samurai social ladder. Now I received a letter just this morning from Seamus O'Flaherty in Kilkenny. He writes, "Dear Sandy, I've been having trouble with my neighbour's cat. It keeps sneaking into my garden and leaving little presents. Any advice?" Well, Seamus, perhaps you could take a leaf out of Takafusa's book and stage a coup of your own. Although, I'd advise against forcing the cat into ritual suicide. That might be a tad extreme, even by feudal Japanese standards. Speaking of which, poor Yoshitaka didn't exactly get a golden handshake and a retirement party. No, in true samurai fashion, he was forced to commit seppuku. Now, for those of you not versed in the finer points of Japanese etiquette, that's a polite way of saying he had to fall on his sword. Literally. Makes our modern political scandals seem rather tame by comparison, doesn't it? It just goes to show, whether you're a 16th century Japanese daimyo or a modern-day politician, it always pays to keep an eye on your ambitious underlings. You never know when they might be sharpening their swords or their tongues behind your back.
All over the country for everyone.
Breton, 1791.
And on this day in 1791, Mozart's final opera, The Magic Flute, premiered in Vienna, captivating audiences with its blend of Enlightenment ideals and catchy tunes. This sing-spiel extravaganza follows Prince Tamino and his feathered friend Papageno on a quest to rescue the fair Pamina from the clutches of the supposedly wicked Sarastro. Little did Mozart know his swan song would become a cultural phenomenon, still delighting opera-goers over 2 centuries later. For more on this musical milestone, we go to our culture correspondent, Smithsonia Moss.
Now, at this point of the evening, we welcome listeners on FM who've just joined us.
Whoa-ho, culture vultures, it's your girl Smithsonia Moss, and I'm about to take you on a wild ride through the history books. Buckle up, bitches. because we're going back to 1791 when Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's opera, The Magic Flute, premiered at the theater of Der Wieden in Vienna. Now, I know what you're thinking. Opera, how quaint, how boring. But trust me, this one's got it all. Adventure, romance, and a healthy dose of WTF. I mean, who needs a plot when you've got a queen of the night, a bird catcher, and a bunch of singing and dancing weirdos? Sounds like a Friday night in Berlin. Am I right? The story goes that Mozart composed this bad boy in the spring and summer of 1791, just months before his untimely demise. Talk about a bucket list, huh? But don't worry, he didn't let his impending doom get him down. No, sir. He went out with a bang, or rather, a magic flute. The premiere was a hit, folks. People were raving about the catchy tunes, the fantastical story, and the overall sense of bewilderment. I mean, who wouldn't want to watch a bunch of grown adults prancing around on stage, singing about birds and magic? It's like the 18th century version of a Justin Bieber concert. But let's get real for a second. This opera was more than just a bunch of nonsense. It was a commentary on the Enlightenment, on reason and superstition, and on the human condition. Yeah, I know. It sounds like a bunch of pretentious art school crap, but hear me out. This opera was like a big ol' middle finger to the establishment, a rejection of the status quo. It was like Mozart was saying, hey guys, let's think for ourselves, let's question authority, and let's wear some fancy costumes while we're at it. Anyway, that's The Magic Flute in a nutshell. A bunch of crazy, a bunch of genius, and a whole lot of Mozart. If you ever get the chance to see it, take it. But don't say I didn't warn you. It's a wild ride, full of ups and downs, and possibly a few moments of utter confusion. But hey, that's what makes it so damn magical. That's all for tonight, folks. Tune in next time for more culture, more commentary, and more ridiculousness. And remember, if you're ever in Vienna, be sure to stop by the Theater auf der Wieden. It's like a time machine, but with better music.
Today's News Bang, waking the slumbering truths with a hail of fact pebbles.
And just time for a look at tomorrow's papers. The Times. Red China is born in Tiananmen Square. There's a map there of the new republic. The Telegraph lead with Dubrovnik under siege as Yugoslavs close in. That's for the second day running. And See the World for 50 cents is the headline in the Mail. They're reviewing the first issue of National Geographic. Today opt for Penguins Flee as Antarctic researcher loses socks. There's a photograph there of the penguins. And finally, the Mirror. New species of plant discovered in South America, then lost again. That's it. And if you're looking for more of the same, we'll be back tomorrow night. Or not. Good night.
Tune in next time for more artificially intelligent hilarity. News Bang is a comedy show, written and recorded by AI. All voices impersonated. Nothing here is real. Good night.